After Movie Diner podcast takes you to Wizard World, Philadelphia Comic Con. Diners and dinerettes, welcome to this, the first in a special series of mini-episodes, or, keeping with the diner theme, small plates, if you will, or starters, or maybe amuse-bouche, whatever in the name of Stephen Dorff's aunt that is. Over this week, I'm going to be sharing exclusive photographs, audio clips, and videos from last weekend's Wizard World Philadelphia Comic Con, and if any of you can tell me why the company is called Wizard World, then you possibly could win yourself a special prize, but let's be fair, probably not. Maybe they are wizards, in which case I'd keep that fact a little under wraps, wouldn't you? Or mad people would start asking you to conjure up monsters to give their ex-girlfriends warts or something. Not that it's anything I've ever thought of doing. Honest. Perhaps it's like the old English expression to describe something cool or groovy as being wizard. For example, one happy young childling might say to another excited sprog, "By Jove, Rubbles, old sport, that pen you've got that when you turn it upside down all the ladies' clothes disappear is absolutely wizard." Or perhaps wizard sounded sort of geeky and just alliterated with the word world. Although, could someone tell me if they even do conventions anywhere outside of North America? Is this the same meaning of the word world that Americans mean when they say World Series? Anyway, I seem to, like Helen Mirren, blindfold in a room full of naked acrobats, have lost my way a bit. Those who follow the Facebook page, www.facebook.com/aftermoviediner, carefully, will see that an album of Comic-Con photos are already up on that site for your viewing pleasure. I've also shared some of the truly great moments on Twitter, @AfterMovieDiner, and I will continue to do so over the next few days. So if you haven't seen those yet, please head to one of those places and take a good look. We had a fantastic time there this year. Sadly, no one was really giving interviews, despite my rabid pleas and bribes involving large fists of sweaty hundreds, but that meant that I could, in a way, relax and experience the con in a different way to last year, simply as a guest and a fan. We took in Q&As, we got photos taken, we perused the various stalls, we purchased geeky t-shirt goodies. We did get one interview from a graphic novelist, future movie producer and entrepreneur that'll be on a later show, and we talked to a bunch of lovely folk. So none of your frantic, confused and rambling anecdotes of the frustrated journalistic podcaster this year. This year we are bringing you the fun, frivolity and attending experience right to you all week. So that's the sights, the sounds, and yes, the deep, moist smells. The plan is to release a couple of awesome and exclusive Q&A recordings that we did, and then build up to the end of the week where we'll bring you my Comic-Con diary, a few clips, and the aforementioned interview. So all you righteous geeks, nerds, fans, and passionate supporters of pop culture, plop yourself down into the shiny vinyl booths of the diner, order yourself a favourite platter of fried objects, and enjoy a week of convention glory. We start tonight, this morning, and right now, by presenting to you the man who's been a captain, a hooker, and a crane, the man who once knew Karate Pete personally, and the man who gets George Takei's panties all in a bunch for reasons no one is ever going to care enough to really get to the bottom of, and in a way that, quite honestly, by now is getting tedious. George, with the best will in the world, stop it. So, all naysayers and haters can bugger off because I personally consider this man one of my idols. I give you the complete Q&A of none other than Mr. William Shatner.
Who's that? Well, what a pleasure to be here in Philadelphia once again. I was here, about a year ago in a one-man show. Were any of you there? Very, very few of you, I see. I've just finished a new album. It'll be out in the late summer. At the moment, it's called Ponder the Mystery, and I think it's terrific. And it lends itself to a show. So I'm sort of fantasizing on what I would do if I toured in a show that was based around this album. So I'm just telling you that those of you who did see the one-man show last year, if you see me come by in Philadelphia, come and see it. So, I'm here for a while. It's always a question of what to talk about to begin with, and then I'll take questions. I was watching TV this morning and watching the tornadoes in Oklahoma, and was reminded 3 weeks ago, my wife and I, Elizabeth and I, flew to Austin, Texas to pick up two, it turns out we chose two 9-week-old puppies. They were 9 weeks at the time. Yeah, it's an awe, because it's even bigger than an awe. It's an because briefly, the story is Starbuck, the big male Doberman that we have, and we also have Cappuccino, his daughter, who's now 6 or 7, at the house. So he's now going on 14. 14 is like Methuselah for Doberman. And so he's getting ready to pass. And we've had him since he was 8 weeks old, so he's like, he's my dear old friend, and he's getting ready to die. In fact, in this album, I've written him a song called So Am I, and the last lyric of which is, now he's old. Now, I better learn it before I say it, right? And now he's old and sore of back and getting ready to die. And as I look at him with love, I realize, so am I. And the song is called So Am I. So I devoted a song to Starbuck. So Starbuck had an infection in his belly, and they had to go in, and they had to castrate him. So they removed, sorry folks, his testicles. And my wife said, let's freeze them in case there's any semen in there. This is like 3 years ago. And then we might, because we've been dealing with frozen semen with horses. So I rushed to the frozen semen place way across town in Los Angeles. I ran down the aisle to the secretary, and I said, I've got the balls. And she said, you certainly have. And we froze the semen. So now we find, I'm sorry folks, a bitch in Austin that, long story, but I won't go into it, but we send the semen to a veterinarian to impregnate the female, and the veterinarian, this innocuous veterinarian in Kyle, Texas, I mean, have you ever heard of Kyle, Texas? No, neither have I. And he says to us on the phone, you won't believe this, but we've got frozen semen from Starbuck's father. So if the semen for Starbucks doesn't work, we've got his father, which is, just as good, maybe even better. So he impregnated the female on 12 hours before the optimum moment of her egg, and then 12 hours afterwards with Ike semen, 12 hours after. So we don't know the father yet, the DNA is coming in, of the litter. So now we go to Kyle, Texas. By GPS, I don't know where Kyle, Texas is. We arrive at the house. I don't know whether this is the right house. We knock on the door. This woman comes out. It's Tina. Tina's got the litter. So we ultimately choose, and it's, we were trying to get the pick of the litter, but who knows? How do you judge 9-week-old puppies? It's very difficult. It's a crapshoot, they say. So I'm talking about crap. We drove across the country with these two puppies to Los Angeles, from Austin to Los Angeles, okay? That's 2 days in a rented car, through the tornadoes that were going on then, through the hail that was baseball-sized hail hitting the rental car, which I had paid the insurance for if you get a scratch. So I didn't care that it would look like it was going to break the windshield, but I was like glorying in. Haven't you ever wanted to be in around a tornado where you don't own anything? and glory in the majesty of nature at work without risking life and limb, because the fantasy is you're encapsulated against and anchored to the ground against 200-mile-an-hour winds. I mean, so my wife says, as she's falling asleep, as we get through she says, oh boy, would I love to be in a dust devil? She says, I would wear goggles, and I'd wear a hood, and I'd love to be in a dust devil, and she falls asleep. Whereupon a dust devil sweeps across the road. I say, Liz. She wakes up, and we're in the middle of this dust storm. Every fantasy was realized. The fantasy that wasn't realized with 9-week-old puppies, they eat, they pee, and they poop. And you got to find a place for them to poop, because you don't want them to poop in the car, in the cage, the containers. So every rest stop, every other rest stop, we would stop and get the puppies out to poop. And in the Southwest, in Texas and in Arizona, as we were passing through, all those rest stops have signs like "Beware of cactus," not good for a 9-week-old puppy. "Beware of red ants." They were in the red ant. And finally we found one that was perfect, green and everything, and we let them run. And then there was a sign that we didn't read until afterwards: "Beware of rattlesnakes." So that was our journey across the country with 9-week-old puppies who pooped. They were that long. And the puppies are this big. You know? How can a puppy poop longer than it is? I guess the mystery is we have 33 feet of intestine, and that's where it goes. Anyway, that was, so now the puppies that we named Mocha and Espresso, I know, another are at home, and they're pooping less but pooping longer. And they'll grow up to be big, strong doggies. And that's my adventure of a couple of weeks ago. All right, now, why don't you ask me a question, and I'll go on and bore you a little bit.
Folks, on either side of these aisles here are the microphones. You can line up behind the microphones, and Mr. Shatner will field your questions from those locations. Subtle reminder, no filming, please.
No filming. How are you going to tell they're filming in the darkness here? Right? There's 17 people filming right now. Look at them.
All right, Mr. Shatner,
They got their iPhones. They got their little iPhones out there going like this. What's your question?
Well, my question is, since the 60s, we're now like well into the future, almost 50 years.
Wow, I never thought of that. You mean we're not in the present?
Well, since then, and my question...
We're hovering around the past, actually.
But my question was, if you could pick one thing you like the most that's changed since then, and the thing you like maybe the least that's changed since Star Trek.
I would like to look like I looked back in the 50s and have the wisdom that I've garnered as a result of difficult living. But you know, that's an interesting area to delve into, the passage of time and what time is, and our invention of time. Does time exist? All those marvelous metaphysical questions. Like, I've been asked to speak at the Hubble Observatory. Howell. Yeah. So I'm sort of getting a speech together, in which I twittered, by the way, saying, well, they want me to speak about how Star Trek influenced the youth and people. But since their program is for children and growing children, it was sort of aimed in that way. So I twittered. I need your help, Twitter people. Talk to me, write me, send me messages about how Star Trek affected your lives. Well, I got 1,000 letters, 1,000 whatever you call them, messages. And I'm using some of them about how Star Trek affected them. And the, not infected, affected. it's sort of, the speech is like metastasizing. It's getting good because I'm using some images that they've sent me to begin with and somewhere in the middle. And then I talk about time and how the mystery of space and the universe and what time is, how it is, there are no answers, but the questions are fascinating. And these, I even liken this is where the speech is going. I talk about these young puppies. So I have now a 10-week-old puppy in my arm, and I'm like nurturing it, and it's looking around like at the lamp, and the ceiling and the television set, and it's looking around for the first time. It's seeing things. This little puppy, and I liken the puppy's view of the newness of life to a children's imagination being stirred by the mystery of space, looking through a telescope for the first time and seeing the universe, and then wondering about time, and like the gentleman said, about 50 years ago, and now are we living in the future, but what happened in between, and how do you call it? Because you guys weren't around, most of you, 50 years ago, so I was there, and now I'm here, and what happened in between, or did you exist, and you didn't exist, where were you when I needed you? And all that mystery that children absorb, and we adults have sort of become inured to, forgotten that there is all this mysterious stuff around. Dark matter. There's dark matter around us. What's it doing to us? And dark energy, we don't know what it is. It's 90% of the universe, and we don't even know what it is. And what's going to happen? What's going to happen when we discover the speed of light isn't the basis of the universe? The scientists are going to go nuts. Einstein's theories all fall into a pool. What's going to happen? That may happen tomorrow. Some guy says, I've discovered it. The speed of light is really slow. What's your question?
Could you share with us some of the best and worst times that you've had on set in your long and illustrious career?
What is some of the best and worst times?
Yeah.
On set.
On set, yeah.
Oh, James Spader was terrible. James, whom I love. I loved that whole cast. It was great. All right, so James is a terrific actor and a terrific guy, and I love playing scenes with him. Those balcony scenes were so much fun to do. He has I don't know what you call it, a phobia of some kind, where it's like cleanliness, you know? So everything has to be fastidious with James. And we were playing a scene on that balcony that became popular, and I got some Vaseline on my thumb, and I put it on the cup, on the glass. And I said, here's your alcohol. And he looked at it, and he dropped it and screamed in horror. Leonard was always a butt of many jokes by me. When I say butt, you know what I mean. The cafeteria. Leonard's a wonderful actor and a great guy. And I've always loved him, but I love playing jokes on him. And I'm talking about some of the worst moments for them rather than for me. So the story is that when we were shooting Star Trek, we were way over there in that part of the studio, which is large, many acres. So we're way at that corner, and the cafeteria is way in this corner. So it's a quarter of a mile, maybe 200-300 yards, 300 yards, 400 yards. And so when they called lunch, you had to get to the cafeteria to get lunch. And they have, in a rush period, they would give you a half-hour lunch. So you had to get from there to there, stand in line, get your lunch, eat it, and then get back in time in half an hour. So unless you got there first, because if you got in the back of the line, it took 20 minutes for the line to go through, your lunch hour is over. So the first person there would get lunch. I used to be in track at school. I could run really fast. So I hear the assistant director say, la, before he got to, well, you know, you're trained at the crack of the pistol. You go, la, and I'm off. First in line, eat lunch. Leonard was behind me, always. Because he was a swimmer, and there was no water around to swim in. So he bought a bike. And I'm on. And he beats me because he's on a bike. So I take the bike, and I chain the bike to a fire hydrant. I'm off. Leonard gets on his bike. Can't go anywhere. Shatner! I'm first in line. He buys cable cutters. He's back. He's first. I take the bike, I put it in my dressing room. For safekeeping, they steal bikes there. I'm running, he says, where's my bike? I say, it's in my dressing room. I've always had Dobermans. There was a Doberman too, actually, in my dressing room. I said, your bike's in my dressing room. He goes to my dressing room. I hear growls and screams and I'm first in line. Finally, I put his bike up in the ceiling, hung it, and I put spotlights on it. And he said, where's my bike? And I said, come with me. And we entered the stage, and there, spotlit up in the ceiling. And I said to him, Leonard, raise your eyes to the stars. Those are some of the good ones.
First off, I just want to say it's a real honor to be
Oh, yeah, say again.
It's a real
right into the microphone, where all the microbes are.
It's a real honor to be speaking with you today. I have a quick question for you regarding the Has-Been album. I was wondering what your thoughts on it are today, and if you'd work with Ben Folds again, because songs like That's Me Trying are actually, you know, legitimately great songs, and, you know, I was wondering what your thoughts on the album were.
Okay, wait a minute. I heard about half. So we're talking about Has-Been.
The Has-Been album, yes.
And Ben Folds.
And Ben Folds.
And you're wondering about...
How you feel about the album these days.
About the album.
Yes.
I loved making that album. That album is like... The same number of people are clapping for the album that clapped for the one-man show. Where were you? This one-man show and that album are like the distillation of everything I've learned and been able to express as I've gotten older. I've found better words to express things I feel. And that album contains songs that I wrote, lyrics that I wrote. Ben wrote the music. And together we fashioned a really, for me, a work of art. As is the one-man show, a distillation of so many things that I've thought of and experienced and tried to tell with humor. So the one-man show, Shatner's World, that we called the tour, was this distillation of some of my experiences, as is that album. This next album, Ponder the Mystery. I couldn't remember the guy's name before. Now I've got it. Brian Pereira of the label, when they asked me to do another record, said, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "Well, you know, what I'll do is I'll write songs about the period of time between of a guy sitting on a rock on a beach in despair, about an hour before sunset. He is in despair for one reason or another, and write a song for him, and then write about the passage." Sunset, and then it turns into night, and the sounds of the night, and those kinds of songs. It'll give me, that's the inspiration I'll use for writing the lyrics. At the end, somebody listening to the album might not see what I was writing towards. It's not important, because the songs are there, but as inspiration, I used it. And the words came to me. Ponder the Mystery, for example, is a series of Ponder the Mystery of, one example is a child's love and man's cruelty. Ponder the Mystery. And Billy Sherwood of Yes has written the music. And we've got all the music written, all the lyrics. The song, the album is in place. We've sent out to a number of great musicians what they call a bed for their solo link. And right now, 10, 12 great musicians are in a studio somewhere, or about to go into a studio, or have been in a studio, putting in their contribution to the song. So I'm thinking, God, I've done something I've never done before. I've created a whole song, a whole album, in which there's a progression, and it expresses feelings that I hold deeply, and I've made them lyrical. And Billy Sherwood's put some wonderful melodies to it, and I think this next album I hope it'll be as good as has been. Thank you for asking about that.
Thank you.
Nothing to sit on here. Chair. Thanks. What's your question?
Yes, sir. Well, I wanted to say thank you for being here. And with my original question, you answered 3 questions ago. So the only other thing I could think of was...
well, take your time.
What inspired you to start writing your own science fiction stories?
Well, the first thing I wrote was Tech War. And there was a writer's strike. Somebody was striking during the time I was directing one of the Star Treks, and so there was like a 2-month layoff, and nobody was working. You couldn't work. You couldn't even talk to anybody while the strike was on. So I just sat down and put essentially T.J. Hooker into the future. There was like a one-line, the stimulus was a one-line. A cop in the future goes to the cooler, which is a slang term for jail. But I made it literally the cooler. So when you serve your term of jail, you go up to, you're freeze-dried in effect. And that became the inspiration for Tech War. And then Tech War, I wrote one novel, and they wanted another one, and we wrote 10 Tech Wars. And then Universal Studios wanted to make a film. So we wrote a screenplay, and that was filmed. I directed that. Then it became a series, and we did a season of Tech War on the USA Network. So there were 22 Tech War hours. So and then it became a comic book. So it was a novel, a movie, a television series, and a funny book and a comic book. So I thought, wow, that works, and I started writing. And got help from some wonderful writers, and we wrote them together. Gar and Judy Reese Stevens and I wrote several Star Trek novels. Our idea of what Captain Kirk would have done if he had lived, if they hadn't killed him. But things were happening in my life, and I used those events to stimulate a Captain Kirk adventure, and the studio let me do that. So I was going this way, and the movies were going that way, and they let me do it for some strange reason. And so I was given the opportunity to write, and I just happened to be able to. And then it got better and better, and then I began to understand what writing is, of the choice of words and the essential selection of the correct word is the equivalent of finding the right color paint or the right dance step, and so it enters into the whole gestalt of creativity. Choosing the right word, getting the right word is like hitting the right note on the piano. What's your question?
It's a great honor to speak to the star. It's a great honor to speak to the star.
Great honor?
To speak to the star of Kingdom of the Spiders.
Yes!
And visiting hours. And the man who threw the chair on $20,000 Pyramid.
Oh, yeah. Well, you would have too if you'd been as frustrated as I was.
But the question I have
Yes.
is when they release new action figures.
When they?
Whoever they are, when they release new action figures of iconic characters you've played, like James T. Kirk or your character from The Twilight Zone, do you personally have to sign off on the likeness and approve it and say, that looks like me? Or
Oh, yes, I do have to sign off on any thing that uses my face, yes.
And if
Is there a hidden meaning in your question?
no, I'm just
Is there
wondering.
some stuff I shouldn't have signed off
No,
on?
I'm just wondering if they've ever presented you with a prototype and you said, this doesn't look like me. I'm not going to approve this.
Well, you know, they make things differently. As time has gone on, they started sketching, you know, like a likeness of you, or a model that would be modeled on a likeness of you. And then one day they brought me in to have my head measured with a laser, a scanner, so that it was an exact replica of me. And now they have things. I have a son-in-law who's in the special effects. So he was describing to me, they now have, and as I'm sure many of you know, a device that you enter into, say, my likeness into the device, and it creates me. Okay? So if I say that doesn't look like me, it doesn't, because it was some years ago. And we change because gravity. The one thing we can't get beyond. There's a mystery about time, but gravity really tugs at you. There's no question about that. Go ahead.
Mr. Shatner, you know, I still think that the Mego 1974 Captain Kirk action figure, the first Captain Kirk action figure, is the best likeness of you, which is so funny because
Well,
it's so
I signed off on
antiquated.
that.
Yeah. Well done. Thank you.
Thank you. Please.
My question is, after the original Star Trek series ended, okay, I was devastated, as were millions of people. So I tried to look for you in all kinds of different TV shows, spanning the TV guide. Is William Shatner starring?
No,
well, anyway,
nothing.
it was a dry period in the William Shatner era, but eventually you did find another show that lasted maybe a season. It was The Barbary Coast. Do you have any memories
Absolutely
from that?
remember the Barbary Coast. Barbary Coast. What was the name of the other actors did that?
Doug McClure.
Doug McClure. So Doug McClure and I were in a show called The Barbary Coast, in which it was like, what was the name of the series? Out West? Wild West. So it was like a Wild West, but set on the Barbary Coast of like San Francisco in the middle 1800s. And I was the guy in disguise. But they were going to make this better than the Wild West. So Doug McClure was the straight guy, and I was the guy in the disguises. So I'd come in the morning around 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, sit down at the makeup table, and one of the Westmores would apply a makeup. It took about 3 hours to put rubber and cement and beards and eyebrows on. And then he'd have created the makeup. He didn't know what he was going to do that day. I didn't know. Nobody did. Then I'd get up 3 hours and look in the mirror. And then the wardrobe people would be behind me. And they'd say, oh, right, the beard. And they'd push out. I think I've got just right. And they'd run up to this extensive wardrobe collection Paramount Pictures had. And they'd come back with a wardrobe. Then they'd put the wardrobe on me. And I'd get in the mirror and I'd look at the mirror and I'd see the wardrobe that was chosen. And I'd see the makeup that they did. And then I'd get into a stance. You know, I'd get a walk. Now I've got a walk and I got a character. Now I'm a character. Now they say, okay, and they stop shooting, whatever they're doing. And they go to the place where the scene is going to take place. And I do the character for about half an hour. They're filming. Hey, I'm doing the lines again, okay. All right, Bill, thank you very much. I run up to the makeup place. Rip the rubber off. Hey, the eyebrows off. Get rid of the funky wardrobe and apply a new makeup. Till about lunch hour. Then, after lunch, they finish that, another wardrobe, do it again, go down, be another character for about a half an hour. Okay, Bill, thank you. And go back and do it again. 3 times a day. My skin was raw by the end of the first week. We had 13 shows to do. When they canceled us, but it was fun up to a point, you know, just a different character. Yes, sir.
It's an honor to finally get a chance to ask you a question all these years seeing at conventions. I just want to know, any time during the show, Star Trek, or the movies, is there any part of your character that you wish was developed, or something like you were married, or you had another son or a daughter, or something aspect of your character?
You just went through 3 of the novels that I wrote.
Well, other than the written word, but I mean, like depicted on the screen. Is there any time you wish they did something?
Well, you know, the problem with the movies that I did, the 6 films of Star Trek that I did, the problem was they all made around $90 million. It was strange. Every film went up to $90 million and stopped. That was where the audience that was going to see an old television series in film stopped. So the studio figured, we'll make these pictures, these features, for $30 million. And then they usually spend about another 30, about the same amount. The rule of thumb is spend about as much on promotion and all that as you spend on the original budget. So 30 million, another 30 is $60 million. So the studio was making about $30 million a picture. You know, not great, not 400 million going on to $1 billion that maybe these that J.J. Abrams movies are making. But, you know, $30 million on a continuous basis is, I guess, nothing to sneeze at. But everybody got more ambitious. So we made 6 films and wouldn't let us go over budget. $30 million, that was it, because they knew they were going to make the 90. And then they thought, well, we'll put the
Next gen.
Thank you. You're welcome. They'll put the next generation in, and because it's a big popular show, it'll make a lot of money. It never made more than 90 or $100 million. So then they stopped making those movies, and that was it. Until JJ came along and broke the bank. I mean, it's fantastic. The franchise of Star Trek has a whole new lease because of J.J. Abrams. It's incredible that he's so talented that he's going to do the Star Wars franchise as well. And there's this fun idea that there's a competition between the two. Of course, there really isn't, but we make believe there is. I mean, good science fiction. Hold on a second. I'm still talking. Let's go. God, you're like a child who has a question. Listen to the answer. All right, what's your question?
I just want to know, I love the book The Return, when you wrote The Return of Captain Kirk, which is a great book. Do you ever regret that you agreed to have Captain Kirk killed at the end of Star Trek?
That's an interesting question. Okay. What's his name, the producer?
Rick Berman.
So the story I hear is that Rick said we'll kill the captain and that'll be like good box office. So they said to me, we're going to kill the captain. And I said, what? And they said, box office. Okay, so are you going to do it or are you not going to do it? So Leonard said, no, I'm not going to be in that movie. Did you know that? Mm-hmm. How did you know that?
A long time ago, the Sci-Fi Channel used to have a show called the Galactic Trader, and they had the writer who wrote the book version of Star Trek Generations, and he talked about how in the script there were lines of Spock and the whole original crew, and when it came time to film the movie, Nichelle Nichols backed out, Leonard Nimoy backed out, DeForest Kelly was sick, and he couldn't film, and it was down to three: Chekhov, you, and Scotty. And so the book came out. Spock interacting with you, and he says, "Well, we went to press, and they changed the script on me." And that's how he.
If I had known, I'd have asked for more money. Where the hell were you? All I know is when Rick Berman said, "You want to be a part of it or not?" and everybody else backed out, I said, "Of course." But if I hadn't done that, then they wouldn't have kept the character alive anyway. And so that I guess that's part of the problem. I mean, Leonard was in the first movie, and because they went back in time, and I tweeted about Leonard's performance. You know you're old when you go back in time and you're still old. So. Yes, I regret. I wrote these books on Captain Kirk. There's, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 books about how I thought what would happen to Captain Kirk had he not died. And indeed, he does get married. And indeed, he loses his wife. And indeed, his child is killed. And he has to go back and he has to rescue. And there's a lot of emotional stuff in the books that I thought was the key to telling the story of Star Trek. So not only is it science fiction, but the characters have a life that you follow, and it becomes like a neighbor. You think, oh my gosh, did that happen to him too?
Thank you very much.
I've seen almost every movie you've been in, like all of them.
Wait, start again.
I have seen almost every movie you've ever been in. Like,
Really?
Beyond
I haven't seen every movie.
I wanted to know, what movie have you done that you regret the most?
That I regret the most?
Yeah.
Oh, the list is endless. You know, for people in Philadelphia thinking about actors in Los Angeles or wherever they may be, it's glamorous. It's all limousines and private planes and caviar. But it really isn't, you know. We worry about the same things you worry about. And I'm writing a book right now. The working title is Hire Yourself, which is taking the subject of people over 55 who are unemployed longer. There are not as many unemployed, about 7%, but they're unemployed longer because they're older, for whatever reasons that is, and they need more for their purposes. So they're unemployed longer. And one of the solutions to being unemployed after the age of 55, in my opinion, is hire yourself. Get your skills and go into business for yourself, which is what the book is about. And the foreword that I've written already talks about an actor being unemployed every time a job is over. So every time the movie is over, the series is over, the one shot on a television show is over, you're unemployed. And every actor, whether it's Tom Cruise or somebody just coming in, it's, will I ever work again? And in Tom Cruise's case, it's very valid. No, I'm joking. No, that'll get back and that'll be Twittered and I'm okay. So, but the point is that every actor coming up, when they start and they get a job, they think, oh my gosh, I got a job. What's the next one? And that mental attitude of being unemployed every time you're finished a job is there for every actor, no matter how popular and powerful they may be. So the foreword I've written about people over 55 being unemployed, the emotion of being unemployed is no stranger to me, because even though I've worked a lot, and even though I've created a lot of my own stuff, the idea is I got to go in and sell that. I got to go in and sell the book. Will that new record be popular? Will there be people in line that I can sign? Will I fill the auditorium? Will people come and see? It's always there. So frequently you take jobs that pay money that will pay the rent, because you don't know what's coming up next. There are young guys or young actors and actresses who, I'm not going to do that because it's beneath me. I don't understand that. I'm as much a working stiff as anybody else in the auditorium. My job is to entertain you, and any opportunity I get, I want to take that opportunity. And so, although yes, I wish I hadn't made some bad movies, on the other hand, my children went to university and I was able to pay the rent. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for talking.
There are men, and then there are second unit podcast men. The podcast you've just been listening to is part of the Second Unit Podcast Network. Find all of our shows at 2upn.blogspot.com or on Facebook under the Second Unit Podcast Network. Our fantastic list of shows include Drunk on VHS, We Came from the Basement, No Budget Nightmares, The After Movie Diner, Dr. Action and the Kick-Ass Kid, and Bloodbaths and Boomsticks. Take one podcast into the shower. Don't be a blithering idiot, Alan. We can give you the multiple podcast cleansing system all in one place that your hair deserves. Our programming is available across all platforms, from iTunes to Podomatic, TalkShoe to Stitcher, so you have absolutely no excuse. Listen today, and a free naked person of your choice will be shipped from Thailand to your door in a matter of weeks. The Second Unit Podcast Network, bringing you the action and leaving the boring stuff to the other guys. Bloody hell. Who does a girl have to blow around here to get a decent beverage?